David, welcome to New Zealand. Thank you very much for popping in to see us.
Thank you for having me.
You're an expert on Iran, and obviously Iran has been very much in the news. The last time we spoke about it was in the few days after the election. What's changed since then? I guess it's a different place.
Well, it's much has changed since then. And I think that Iran that you see today cannot claim to be the Iran of the day of the election or day after the elections. You can see the rift between two camps coming to the fore and so strongly presented all over. On the one hand, you see the civil society in Iran, which is a wonderful young girls and boys, which motivated by the resentment of the unfulfilled expectation of 30 years of Islamic revolution, the winds that came from Washington when the new president of the United States, Obama, emerged out of nowhere and gave hope to people for supporting democracy and liberties, and offering dialogue with Iran, incited people to demand their rights. On the other hand, you see the radical conservative clergy that they speak in the name of Allah. They have the support of the revolutionary guard, and they are determined not to let the opposition to do to them what they did to the Shah. So therefore we see two camps confronting each other, representing different interpretation of Islamic principles, and the main issue is greater liberties and better welfare. Now, the difference is that until now, this regime could base its power and authority on moral values, Islamic principles. It is clear today that this regime is based primarily on the arms and force. Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, who is the supreme leader of the nation, did not follow Ayatollah Khomeini in many ways. First, to begin with, he doesn't have the charisma, the political power, and not even the religious standing that Ayatollah Khomeini used to have. But he also behaved, rather than the leader of the nation, he behaved like the leader of one faction. Khomeini always stood above the factions, and at the time of crisis stepped in as an arbitrator and closing the gap between them. Khamenei identified and have been very involved in this interfighting within camps. So I think that in many ways this Iran is different. On the surface, the regime managed to suppress the movement, but I think under the surface people are still asking questions, and I think that this struggle is not yet over.
I know you were in Iran during the last days of the Shah. Do you see parallels between the feeling among people then and the way they feel now?
Well, in many ways, yes, but certainly as I'm also professor of history, and I know that these parallels cannot lead you much to any definitive results of conclusions. I lived in Iran, yes, and easily I could sense the feeling of the people. And at that time, too, the movement against the Shah was of unfulfilled expectations. That the Shah promised with his revolution, white revolution that he called, that everything would be wonderful, Iran will be the most progressive country, and all the problems will be removed, and he didn't deliver. And with all the huge money from oil, the people felt that it's a poor nation living in a rich country. And I think this sense comes back today. And the two main issues that motivated people in 1979, 30 years ago, are still on the table. And this is the struggle of the Iranian people for liberty and welfare. And these are the two main issues that the young people of Iran are asking to gain, and they think it's their right to gain. It was the promise of the Islamic Revolution, and 30 years after, they've not yet been fulfilled.
As far as the region is concerned, though, everyone else around them, particularly Israel, but many of the more moderate Arab states, are very concerned about the nuclear ambitions of President Ahmadinejad.
Well, I think it's not only Israel and its neighbors. The problem of Iran nuclear capabilities is a problem of the free world. Now, people still point to Israel as though Israel is the main target. Israel is not the main issue. For the Iranian Revolution, their enemy is Western civilization. And Israel is too small a country for them. They viewed the Western culture as being based on two main pillars: communist Soviet Union and capitalist America. One of them is gone, the other will follow, and Islam is the alternative ideology to lead the civilized nations. And I think that if this is the conception, and we see that Iran is involved not only in the Middle East, so I think Iran is similarly a problem or nuclear Iran is a problem for Europe, even for Russia, I would say, and certainly for Israel. But you know, if you ask the moderate Arab states today, what is your main concern? Who is your main enemy? They will not point to Israel as the main enemy. All of a sudden, Iran turned to be the enemy number one of the Muslim world, to the degree that King Abdullah of Jordan speaks about the Shiite crescent, going from Iran, Iraq, Persian Gulf, Syria, and Lebanon. Well, I don't buy this formula of Shiite crescent because I think that it's not a unified crescent. But still, when King Abdullah speaks like this, or President of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, you can see the concern. The concern is so much that even you could see a month ago that Egypt allowed Israeli warships to go through the Suez Canal, which is something they don't like to see, as a signal to Iran that it might be an Israeli-Arab coalition to act against their nuclear capabilities. But before going to thinking about radical steps, let's try moral pressure on Iran. On the issue of human rights, we started our talk about this movement in Iran, the beautiful civil society in Iran that have been suppressed, and many of them are in jail. I think that the world should put the mirror in front of the Iranian leadership to show the world what is being done in Iran and in their own jails, in their own streets. You could see the pictures in Iran. The world should be much more demanding of Iran to honor human rights. There is also a set of economic steps that can be taken. And I think that ultimately the Iranian people are the main solution to the Iranian nuclear program, because they brought this regime to power, and the people of Iran, unlike the peoples in other countries of the Middle East, are always in the streets, on the front. They are very political, and they would change the policy or change the regime. The question is, when you see today in Iran, there are two trains which in my view are already out of terminal. One train is carrying a nuclear message, and the other is carrying the message of political or social change. It is up to the free world to do whatever it takes that the train with nuclear weapon will not reach its final destination first.
Quite a challenge. David, thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you.